Oh yeah, he threatened me. She continually lies to her father, and the Bible apparently approves. This is a good thing to save David. We need to think about that. When can you lie to your dad? All you who are below 65, the answer is never. Okay? But there, the Bible approves of this. And David runs. And this time he is never going to return to Saul's palace. And Saul sends some men after David to capture him, to kill him. And David goes down, and he's with Samuel down at Ramah, or however you pronounce this. Now there's a strange little phrase that we saw a couple times in the reading today, and that's Naoth at Ramah. And for years and years we've thought that that was a place, but now the latest scholarship is thinking that this means tent or camping ground. Evidently Samuel was having some tent meetings out there in the countryside, and so all the prophets were out there. It's not really a place, it's just sort of where they were camping and where they were having their religious meetings. Ramah is right there in the middle. You can see Jerusalem toward the bottom, Bethlehem really toward the bottom, and Ramah is up there. You can see that it's sort of in a valley there, and then there are these mountains to the north. And that's where they think that this campground was taking place, back in those mountains back there. Well, Saul wants to kill David, and he finds out, his spies tell him that David is at Ramah with Samuel, and he sends these 3 detachments. It's hilarious. He sends a group, and they join David. And then he sends another group, and they join David. And he sends another group, and they join David. And they don't come back. And Saul keeps sending these people after him. You'd think he might learn. And so he decides, well, I'll go. He goes down to Ramah. And he finally says, I have to take care of this. You just can't send a boy to do a king's job or something like that. And so he goes down there, and he doesn't come back. He is possessed by the Spirit. The Spirit comes upon him. And the Spirit knocks him down and flattens him out all night and allows David to get away from Saul. Now, we have looked at a number of times when we've seen spirits here in these chapters, talking about spirits in the last few chapters that we have. And here we have the Spirit of God who comes upon Saul. Now, this is not the evil spirit that God sent him. And we read about that spirit in those verses. This is the Spirit of God. When we're talking about an evil spirit, it says a spirit from God or an evil spirit. Now, when we see the word the Spirit of God, that's the Holy Spirit. And Saul was being persecuted by an evil spirit, but now something new happens to him. Well, actually it happened to him a while back, but it happens to him again. And the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit, comes upon Saul and says, Saul, I can't let you kill David. And he knocks him down. He says, Saul, I can't let you pursue David. And he's flat on his ground in front of Samuel for a whole day while David gets away. Saul is possessed by the Holy Spirit to protect David. And David runs away from Saul, but now he runs to Jonathan. And they work on a plan on how David can save his life. And really, the plan is also on how Jonathan is going to lose the throne and probably his own life. I don't think Jonathan thinks there's any other way out of this. And that's an amazing act of love on his part. And he joins a lot of these stories so that we can see that they're all hooked together as they flow through this. David feels like he can trust Jonathan. And that is an amazing statement in itself. Because here is the crown prince. Here is the person who has been promised that he could be king when Saul dies. Here is the person that's standing in David's way of being king. And yet David trusts him, loves him, is loyal to him so much that he goes to Jonathan when Jonathan has everything to lose and nothing to gain from letting David do this. Nothing except being obedient to God. They talk about this new moon festival that was coming up, sort of like our potluck this afternoon. We're doing a mystery meal, in case I hadn't announced that, and you're all invited, and it's Camp Scholarship fundraiser. It's a new moon festival. They held them every month, and they just sort of got together and had a potluck over the sacrifices that they'd made, and it was sort of a relaxation time as they realized that God had given them another month. And every month they got together, and David was supposed to be there. Now, these speeches that we see from Jonathan are more than just simply trying to devise a plan of how to protect David and how to communicate with David and how to get David to safety. These speeches tell us the depth of Jonathan's love for David. He knows that David will be king, and that means that he won't be. He is willing to give up his throne, I think, not only for the love of David, but for the love of God. He knows that God is with David. He knows that God has ordained this. And he says, I want to be a part of this. He says, I don't have to be the king in this kingdom. I have to do my part. I have to be obedient. I have to be Saul's son. He says, David, you're going to be king. I know this. And he is willing to sacrifice all of his life's ambitions, all of the things that he's been raised for from a little child, so that David could do God's job in his life. That's an amazing thing. How much are we willing to give up so that God can achieve his results in this world? He renews his promises to David in these speeches. Promises to protect him. Jonathan at this point has all the power. He can kill David. He's got the men, he's got the power, he's got the authority to do this. Saul would be happy. But he renews his promises to David. And then he asks, David, when you come into power, I want you to do something for me. Because if you come into power, I will probably be dead. When you come into power, I want you to protect my children. Now, if you read the rest of Samuel and you read Kings, you'll realize that whenever a king came into power, no matter how good or bad or whatever, he killed off everybody that was related to the old king. You know, they killed off their brothers. If they were the son of the king, you know, they would kill off their relatives. They would kill off their friends. They had to protect their position, and so they killed off any opposition. Well, if Jonathan has children, and if David comes to power, the normal thing would be kill off the kids. Jonathan says, David, I want you to protect my children. I want you to save them. I want you to put your kingdom at risk by keeping sons and grandsons of Saul alive. So David, when he comes into power, is putting his kingdom at risk. This is a terribly risky relationship